Good morning, everyone, and welcome to episode 4 of Drawing with Colin. Thank you for joining me this morning, and without further ado, I'm just going to jump straight into today's request. It reads as follows: Dear Drawing with Colin, your recent drawings have been fantastical and wonderful. However, I don't often have the need to draw the live action shots that you so accurately depict. Today I would like you to draw a masterclass on fruit, specifically 2 to 3 different types of apple, with a brief history and some information on how they taste. All part of a healthy lifestyle. I'm sure you'll agree. Yours with great anticipation, Judith from Stirling. Well, Judith, I'll see what I can do. So let's just angle the camera and we will get started. So I'm going to start today with the Granny Smith apple, named of course after the actress Maggie Smith, who I believe has been a granny for I think 83 years now. And it's commonly referred to as the Old Margaret. One of the standout features of the Granny Smith is it's got quite a flat bottom, so it actually sits on a table or desk quite easily. So I'm just going to draw that fairly flat bottom and then sort of curved sides up the top, almost like a sort of tumbler shape. Very, very simple. And that's really it, to be honest, with a wee bit up the top. We'll come to, I'm just going to draw the basic outlines of the apples to start with, and then we can start to look at colouring and maybe some of the specifics. The Granny Smith apple is of course famous as it was the apple that William Tell shot off his son's head in the 15th century, which first kind of brought it to public fame. It's green in colour, it's shiny, and definitely a case to be made for perhaps being the most rich in flavour of the apple family. Very crunchy, juicy, and more expensive. So definitely one of the top dogs within the apple family. So we'll come back to that shortly and draw it. But I'm just going to talk you through the other two that we're going to look at today. We also have the Gala apple, known as the Gala apple because they are predominantly grown in Gala Shields, and perhaps most famously depicted in the 1937 film Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, the one which the witch tried to get, successfully gave to Snow White, and as such you may hear it referred to today as the witch's apple. One of the most interesting things about the Gala apple is that it's a perfect sphere, which of course is very difficult to draw freehand. So conveniently I have a pint glass which I'm just going to trace because it's actually slightly smaller than the Granny Smith apple as well, so this will result in it being in perfect scale. So I'm just going to draw around that. So it's perhaps, it's not the most tasty, the Gala apple. It's quite soft, it's a bit mushy, but because of its spherical shape you can use it for other things like bowling or practicing your keepy-uppies or just any game that you might enjoy to play with a ball. They do go off quite quickly as well. Definitely not one of the best in terms of flavour, so I'm just going to show you those two. As you can see, Granny Smith's certainly bigger, quite a flat bottom, so you can just kind of sit it on your desk or table, whereas the Gala obviously would just roll off. And the final one that I'm going to draw for you today is the Golden Delicious, ironically named because it is neither golden nor delicious, and to be honest it's not really eaten as in and of itself. Generally the Golden Delicious is found in ciders and crumbles. In fact, ciders are exclusively made from Golden Delicious apples, which kind of gives it that sort of yellowy colour that comes from the apple skin. It's a big one, probably similar sort of size and shape actually to the Granny Smith, but perhaps a wee bit more rounded at the bottom edge. Also quite soft, which is good for making the crumble obviously because it's easy to kind of mash up. This is also important in the cider making process. And that's really most of the information we need about the apple. So I'm just going to show you those. Hopefully you can see all three. The Gala in the middle obviously is the standout of the three. The other two actually are very similarly shaped. The Granny Smith has that flat bottom and the Golden Delicious a wee bit more rounded and actually slightly bigger. So that is more or less exactly how they would look to scale. So all we really need to do now is add some colour, which is something that we've not looked at yet in drawing with Colin, but hopefully a new skill for us to consider today. So I've got some colouring pencils here, and I'm going to start with the Granny Smith because it's fairly easy to draw the Granny Smith in that it's just this sort of shade of green. So there we are here. So there's not that much skill required here. Notice that I'm going across rather than sort of up and down. You want to make sure that you're moving the pencil in a consistent direction when you're shading, and make sure that you stay within the edges of the apple. That's really all the advice that I can give you. Perhaps around the edges would be a wee bit darker. You might see a little bit of shading around the edge. The middle probably going to be a wee bit lighter from where the sun hits it. Come on. Wee bit blunt, but we're getting there. Just really the one shade of green. Fairly straightforward. As you can see, a wee bit darker at the bottom and the sides. Just being careful to stay within the edges there. Very important when you're colouring in. There we go. That's it. Not really much more to it than that. Notice the strokes across the apple are consistent, going the same direction, which is important when we draw. The Gala one, for those of us who've seen Snow White, and those of us who live in the sort of Gala Shields region, or even those of us who've just eaten a Galan apple, will know that it is quite a blood red. It's not just a kind of light red, it's a very, very, very kind of thick, dark, reddy colour. And as I said before, really not that tasty. I would never buy them, but if I was to encounter one, maybe if I was at a friend's house or something, I prefer to use it just for flinging about, maybe juggling. Yeah, just see it as a ball. It's a bit cheaper than a ball, although some people do like them. But I mean, fruit is expensive, to be fair, so we need to have some cheap apples out there as well. Oh, I've just gone out the side there, which is a bit silly. Again, really just that one colour of red, but I'm trying to get it quite dark. Notice, as before, careful when I'm going across the page to stay inside the lines. Make sure that the stroke is consistent, and then I'm just going to kind of go over it one more time to get it that little bit darker. And there is your Gala, absolutely perfectly spherical, as you can see. And the Golden Delicious, I said it wasn't golden or delicious. It is. It's not a million miles off the Granny Smith, to be honest. It's a wee bit green with maybe that kind of wee orangey glow tip, perhaps. Notice I'm just doing this very, very lightly as a sort of undercoating, and then I'm going to go over it in green. You can barely even see that, but there is a light dusting of orange taking place there. I'm just going to go over it now. And that's it. Now, I said last week that I was wanting to focus on sort of simpler drawings that we could look at in more detail, and that's definitely the kind of theme that we've gone for today. But the apple's not particularly complex. As I say, the key thing to remember, I'll show you all three. Key thing to remember with a Gala is that it's a perfect sphere. So I would use either a compass or a glass or something that you can trace for that. Granny Smith, flat bottom, quite wide, and the biggest of all, the Golden Delicious, not quite as flat bottomed as the Granny Smith, and a lighter colour. So guys, that's a real, well actually it's 9 minutes, but it's a bit shorter than last week. Hopefully that was helpful, both to get a feel for how to draw the apples, but also I think it's interesting to learn about their history in terms of their name, where they're from, and where we might have seen them in popular culture. So I hope you enjoyed that. Yeah, not really much more to say. Please tell your friends about the channel, like it, subscribe, enjoy. And yeah, if I was to recommend one of the 3 apples for your enjoyment this afternoon, I would say nip down to Tesco's and buy some Granny Smiths. Thanks very much, guys. Bye bye.